So the horsemen of the apocalypse, the tech apocalypse, Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg, Dorsey of Twitter, obviously, and Zuckerberg of Facebook, Sundar Pichai of Google was not there. They were called up before the Senate. The big thing was that the big idea was that they had censored the Hunter Biden laptop story from the New York Post. That was the thing that really got people going. But there are two sides to this. There's a Republican side and there's a Democrat side. And Senator Mike Lee outlines what those sides are. This is cut 16.
Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg are very fond of saying, and I'm sure we will hear today, that we've got people on both sides of the spectrum who are upset with us. Now, the difference here, Trace, is that you do have some people upset on the left, yes, but they're upset mostly because they want Facebook and Twitter to be doing more of their censoring, not less. And people who are actually getting censored, with some rare and less visible exceptions, are overwhelmingly Republican, conservative, pro-life individuals and organizations. You don't see that happening on the left.
So remember that as we listen to some of the clips from this, that the left wants them to censor. They just want them to censor us. And the right wants them not to censor. They're not telling that nobody on the right is calling for the left to be censored. Nobody on the right is calling for the left to be censored. And that's an amazing difference between, it's just like the difference in the Supreme Court where they want the right decisions, pro-abortion and whatever their cause is, and we want constitutional decisions even when we have to bite it and lose. I want them to decide according to what the Constitution says, even if I think that the Constitution is wrong there, then I want the law to be changed. I do not want judges ruling me, okay? It's really different. It's really two different things. And these guys, you know, Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey, but Jack Dorsey especially. Zuckerberg, I have this feeling, has a sort of sense of that he wants to be a little bit more fair. Zuckerberg, I think, is just playing the game to make the most money for his company, whereas Dorsey, I think, is really, you just look at his beard. I mean, it's the beard of a sociopath. I won't say that he's a sociopath. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But anybody who has that beard is suspect. And the other thing about these guys is they're untouchable. The Senate cannot lay a glove on them. Why? Because the Senate doesn't understand this stuff. It doesn't understand the algorithms they're using. It doesn't understand how they work. They can change those algorithms. They can do all kinds of things. All they understand is that they are faced with a group of people who have more power, or at least in instances have more power than the President of the United States. The President of the United States used Twitter to get his word out. He's still doing it, and they are censoring it. They're labeling it. They're putting labels on it. And the arrogance of them, especially Dorsey, Jack Boots Dorsey, I call him at this point, the arrogance of him is incredible. Listen to Dorsey. Listen to what Dorsey says about censoring the New York Post. It's cut 9.
We were called here today because of an enforcement decision we made against the New York Post based on a policy we created in 2018 to prevent Twitter from being used to spread hacked materials. This resulted in us blocking people from sharing a New York Post article, publicly or privately. We made a quick interpretation, using no other evidence, that the materials in the article were obtained through hacking, and according to our policy, we blocked them from being spread. Upon further consideration, we admitted this action was wrong and corrected it within 24 hours.
Now, one of the reasons he thinks it was wrong was because it made the story much, much bigger than it was. Now, as we reported yesterday, I think it was, when I was reading from the Daily Beast, that was yesterday, the MSM did the job for them. They squashed the story. They would not report the story. The story simply died. And you could hear the relief in the Biden team saying, oh, we thought it was going to spread. It was doing so well on social media, but then luckily it didn't make it into the media. It wasn't luck. They squashed the story. And when you're talking about, by the way, election rigging, that's election rigging. It's not illegal, but it's election rigging, and we let them get away with it. We let them get away with it when we let them take over the news media. When they've taken over social media as well. We let them do this. We don't build our own stuff. We sit around and complain about the stuff they build, and that is, especially when it comes to the culture. We're doing other things, but when it comes to the culture, this is the thing. Now we've learned our lesson. We've made big inroads. We have to continue making those inroads. The arrogance of this guy to say all they had to do was obey us, and then they could go back on and disobey us because we changed the policy. That's an amazing thing. Just bend the knee to Twitter. That's basically what they're saying. It's like they made a bad rule. The New York Post violated the bad rule. They changed the rule, but first they had to obey the rule in order to come on and not obey the rule because the rule wasn't made anymore, right? Also, of course, the rule wasn't enforced on anybody else. It wasn't enforced on the New York Times when they hacked Trump's tax returns. It wasn't enforced on anybody who was saying all kinds of things against, Dorsey is openly spitting in their eyes. And so all they can do, basically, Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz, all they can do is go after them as best they can. But basically, they know they're up against a power that has to be broken by the government before it can be dealt with by the government, because right now it's more powerful than the government. Here's Cruz going after him because, by the way, they're still doing this. They're doing this with Trump's claims that the election was fraudulent, all right? These claims have not been taken to court yet. We have not seen the proof. We've not seen the evidence. We've seen some evidence that goes around on Twitter and all this stuff. There's no way that Jack Dorsey knows whether or not these claims are true or not, but he is labeling them saying official sources say they're, what is the official source for this? So here's cut 11, Cruz versus Dorsey.
Does voter fraud exist?
I don't know for certain.
Are you an expert in voter fraud?
No, I'm not.
Well, why then is Twitter right now putting purported warnings on virtually any statement about voter fraud?
We're simply linking to a broader conversation so that people have more information.
No, you're not. You put up a page that says, quote, voter fraud of any kind is exceedingly rare in the United States. That's not linking to a broader conversation. That's taking a disputed policy position, and you're a publisher when you're doing that.
See, this is the thing. And of course, the publisher thing is, we all know, what is the number 230, some rule where, and this is the important part of this, right? They're a government creation. Twitter, Facebook, Google, they're all government creations because they gave them this right to edit material without having the responsibility of publishers, right? I've explained this a million times, just go over it briefly. If they're a platform, they're like the phone company. They have no right to edit content. The phone company has no right to come on your conversation and say, that those are disputed claims. I'm sorry, Grandma. Tell your grandma that those are disputed claims. They can't do that while you're talking to your grandma and telling her you think the vote was rigged, right? They can't come on and do that. But Twitter can. Twitter can and still remain a platform. And that's important because if they're a publisher who does curate material, then they can be sued. Then if somebody goes on Twitter and says something untrue about me, I can sue Twitter for publishing that, right? That's why they don't want that, because if I can sue Twitter, I could sue them me alone. I alone could sue them into the ground for all the people who've called me names on Twitter and said things about them, said things about me. I could sue Jack Dorsey, and then he wouldn't be rich enough to wear that beard anymore because nobody would talk to him. They would say, look, I'm sorry, but the beard is dispositive that you're a sociopath. I can't talk to you anymore. His life would not be as much fun. This is what Lindsey Graham is saying. It's cut 10.
Why do you have editorial control over the New York Post? They decided, and maybe for a good reason, I don't know, that the New York Post articles about Hunter Biden needed to be flagged, excluded from distribution, or made hard to find. That to me seems like you're the ultimate editor.
And if they lose this right, obviously, if they lose the right to edit, then they have lost the power that they are wielding wrongly against you because they don't care what you have to think. They only care about you as a consumer. That's what they want. They want you to be a consumer, not a human being. Before you go, one last thing. Hit the subscribe button so that you stay up to date on all our content.